What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another day here at the ASL. This is round of 8, day 2. Tastosis, how you doing?
Dude, I'm doing very, very well. For those of you who are tuning in and a little bit confused that you only see me, we did start this in the previous episode. We're just kind of recording in a different way, trying that out towards the end of the season to get those VODs out a little bit quicker, or a lot a bit quicker. So sorry you're not going to see Tasteless next to me. But that's what you get for the quick VOD.
Yeah. We've got a couple things we've moved around here to basically get things out more efficiently. It seems like the biggest demand is to get the VOD out fast, and of course to not have any audio snafus where we're not synced up with each other or not synced up with what's happening in the game. And so this system that we're using right now is the best way to do that. But we're going to continue to try to improve it as new casts come out. Yeah.
So thanks for hanging with us, guys. Really appreciate all the support on Patreon and everything. Thank you very much. Check that out. Patreon.com/ASL English.
Yeah, guys, we love you, and we're never going to stop trying to do our very best to improve this and make the best quality product for you guys. So thank you for supporting us. It wouldn't be possible without you. And, of course, thank you for keeping the history of the greatest game ever alive in the English language. In the best language. Take that, Korean language.
We do have a powerful language. So, match 1 that hopefully you guys have already checked out. Rush did end up taking down Hero 3-0. His stability in that series is to be lauded. I think Hero was ahead in 3 games, and he just fought back tooth and nail. Now we have another amazing, what should be macro series, SoulKey against JyJ. I think SoulKey is like one of the other best macro Zergs out there against Terran, and then JyJ, I think, is one of the few people actually better than Rush at Terran versus Zerg. So this is a fantastic match that I've been looking forward to a lot.
This is going to be a fun one. This should be by far the longest match we have, I think. Let's get into it.
철벽이 뭔지 다시 한번 김민철 선수 보여주면서 8강 진출! 8강에서 발목 잡히면서 4강 무대 못 올라간 김민철인데 이 스코어의 한 점차로 김민철 선수 아쉽게 패배를 했는데요.
다전제에서 조금은 약한 모습을 보였던 김민철 선수이기 때문에 증명을 다시 해야 되겠죠? 11번째 시즌, 13번째 시즌 8강 진출 이후에 3번째 8강 도전을
생애 최초로 4강 진출! 한결에 돌파하면서 우승 트로피를 들어올리는 주인공 정영재! 복수의 리벤지 매치가 성사가 됐습니다. 지난 시즌 이 둘이 만나서 김민철이 졌잖아요.
창과 방패 대결에서 방패가 뚫렸어요. 다시 뚫리면 안 되죠.
벽을 다시 쌓았습니다.
The time has come for the second quarter-final here at the AfreecaTV StarCraft League Season 16 with Hot 6, folks, as today's contenders face off in a round of 8 rematch from last season. Let's have a quick word with SoulKey and JyJ ahead of today's game. Hello, gentlemen. SoulKey, you made it into the quarterfinals as the first place finisher of Group C. In the interview that followed, you mentioned you would like to face off against JyJ in the quarterfinals. Your wish has now become reality. Did this motivate you to practice hard for today's game? I think this match is the one I put the most practice into over the most recent 5 seasons. It's time for payback. I'll be happy if this series goes my way. The most practice you've put in ahead of any game in the last 5 seasons. That is like 3 years, right? Well, that seems to be the case. I normally try to play with a relaxed mindset, but today, things are different. That loss to JyJ in the round of 8 last season must be a thorn in your side. Let us have a word with JyJ too. Hello. Hi. How do you feel about meeting SoulKey in the quarterfinals again? Well, for starters, him talking about revenge got me all scared. I didn't want to have to play this game. Regardless, I am confident in myself. Speaking of confidence, SoulKey, in the round of 24 this season, you faced off and won against Rain, then Hero and Bisu in the round of 16, and now you're running into a Terran. You have a good track record in ZVT. Surely, that must also make you feel confident going into today's game. I am always confident, but I still sometimes end up losing. I think last time, pride got in the way of my confidence. So this time around, I need to make sure that doesn't happen. You said you prepared extensively for today's game. I wanted to ask you about your training regimen, as well as how likely you think it is that you will come out victorious. Honestly, I don't pay much attention to scores when practicing, but anyhow, I think my chances today are quite good. JyJ, you're one of the Terrans who always show good form in matches against Zerg, and your ASL record against Zerg reflects that. How did you prepare for today's best of 5 against SoulKey? Well, I didn't really do anything special to prepare. I'm taking things easy. Well, I'm not sure what to make of that. Does that mean you run some simulations in your head? Yes. Really? Well, I would rather not say too much before I play this series. Oh, understood. Many fans are anxious to see today's game. SoulKey, which map do you think will decide the series? Well, looking at yesterday's game, it seems to prove that the first set is the most important. It seems true that whoever wins the first map wins the whole series. Whoever wins the first map wins the whole series. Do you share this sentiment, JyJ? Yes, I also think that. You know, seeing SoulKey sitting there, him not laughing, is kind of scary. Oh, sitting here I can feel this aura. You can tell things are getting serious, right? Yes, it's got a bit scary. Well, regardless, you are a player who has made it to the finals before. Surely, this pressure is something you can cope with. Well, naturally, I am confident, but there is a chance SoulKey might get his revenge. Oh, you prepared for this eventuality, but you feel you can still fall victim today. Let's hear our players' closing remarks. SoulKey, I'll show you how well I prepared today. Understood. JyJ, I also prepared well today, and I'll do my best to advance one more time. Nice. Let's hope for a good game from both sides. Thank you. That was the pre-game interview with SoulKey and JyJ for the second match of the round of 8 of ASL 16, brought to you by Hot 6 the energy drink. As we eagerly await to find out who's going to face off against Rush in the round of 4, let's take an in-depth look at the upcoming match.
All right, let's get into it, man. We've got a really exciting match for you guys. I think JyJ should take this, but it's so hard to call Tastosis. I mean, the truth is, SoulKey is so scary, and sometimes he just makes it look so easy.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the first map, you know, we were talking about the first map yesterday being really important, but I think the first map here will really set the tone. Tempest is a bit of a Zerg-favored map for sure. If SoulKey can't take this map from JyJ, I won't be holding too much hope for him taking the series, honestly, because the other maps are going to be much more regular for JyJ to play. Like those middle 3 sets, basically Polypoid, Invader, Retro, those are all like vanilla enough that JyJ is going to play very strongly there. So I think the map that's a bit Zerg favored here at the beginning is one that SoulKey's going to need to take down.
SoulKey, you know, the funny thing with SoulKey is that he is so strangely incredibly good at these macro games and these games that look really hard for everybody else, but he is very willing to do weird stuff and cheese. It is truly strange he has not actually won an ASL yet. This could be his moment, but let's also not forget, you know, this has been a fairly Zerg-heavy tournament. SoulKey's still here despite this being his weakest matchup. JyJ is a Zerg slayer. Yeah. No doubt. He is definitely one of the best TV's years. And in a very straight-up fashion. He's not very tricky. He doesn't really need to be. It's almost like he's just too strong. Just he can kind of brute force his way through anything. But if SoulKey can get through here, man, he's got a real shot to take the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Either one of these guys, really. And you can see these stats that we just looked at there, where it's like, oh, they actually played last season, the round of 8. JyJ took him down 3-2. And you can see, like, JyJ is a Zerg killer. It looks like in these last couple seasons, he's only really lost to Effort, which, you know, Effort obviously is on fire this season. And that was actually a pretty surprising match as well. But you're right, he's, like... the way he plays, it's not super technical, right? Like the season that Royal ended up winning, he won against a lot of Zergs as well, but it was with very technical, crazy builds, like the fastest factory you've ever seen, right? And like picking off a bunch of drones. Whereas JyJ is going to use brute force here, most likely in most of the games. I'm sure he'll have other stuff mixed in, but for the most part, he is a brute force Marine Medic Science Vessel player.
Yeah. He just likes to strong-arm his opponent. So how exactly is SoulKey going to approach this? As good as JyJ is, I think it is still possible for SoulKey to beat him head-to-head. I don't want to make this sound like SoulKey has to try to circumvent the standard play style, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun match all around. I think we're going to have a lot of macro games. I think if a game does end quickly, it's going to be because SoulKey's weird cheese worked out. Otherwise, I think it's going to be JyJ powering through mid-game or maybe taking it all the way to late game.
Yeah, I think you could be right about that. Now, SoulKey, one thing I do want to mention is if you screw up with your bio ball in the center of the map, SoulKey might be the best at killing that if you misstep, right? So, like, he's very good at surrounding it, eliminating it, and we're just going to have to wait to see if that happens to JyJ, or will he reinforce perfectly? Because when... like, it's crazy when you see SoulKey on in those positions. It's like there'll be this one moment where, like, you went a little bit too far, you're not getting home. And SoulKey almost never loses if he kills that first bio ball out on the map. So I think that that is, in a macro game, going to be the one way that JyJ could really fumble the ball.
Yeah. JyJ had an incredible run. It, you know, when he, you know, did what he did in the last season of ASL, it shouldn't have been surprising, right? But there were so many seasons before where JyJ was just sort of a round of 16 player at times that it's really great to see what he's done now. And I gotta, you know, ask myself, how many more ASL seasons can this guy continue to dominate? We've seen some real power shifts as far as who's on top, especially in the last few years of ASL. And right now, JyJ is kind of our newest edition of what we consider to be a truly top-tier Terran out here.
Yeah, that is a fact, being the most recent champion. Now, here we go. We are ready. Map number 1 going to be Tempest. Again, this is considered to be a Zerg-favored map. It has that high ground that you can put Sunkens on. Very hard to do counter pressure while you're getting Mutalisk harassed. But there might be some sort of workaround that we see from JyJ, or maybe he just wants to play straight up and grind through that anyways. Hard to say, but this is going to set the tone for the rest of the match.
It's going to be a fun one. And then right after that, we've got 3 pretty standard TVZ maps in a row. So how exactly is JyJ going to play on this? Is he going to stick with that very standard, traditional kind of Marine, Medic, Science Vessel style, where he really just tries to close off opportunities for the Zerg and choke them out by denying gas expansions? Or is JyJ going to do something a little bit creative and a little bit out of the box? We've got a ton of new maps this season. But JyJ, if you were going to put him on a spectrum from, you know, super risk taking to very conservative, he's all the way on the conservative side. So this is going to be a matchup in map 1 where I'm really looking at it from JyJ's perspective to see how he's going to dictate the way this TVZ is going to go. Okay, we've got SoulKey here in the top left, and we've got JyJ here in the top right. I'm going to mention this just right at the start here. We're trying a new format here for the editing. This is the second recording we've done of it. It seems like it's allowing us to get the VODs out very quickly. So if you've noticed quicker release times from the scheduled ASL dates, that's why. And, you know, we're always doing our best to try to improve and make the show as good as it could possibly be and out as quick as it could possibly be.
And no more syncing issues. We know that those are the worst things that can happen. So sorry about that in the past, but that shouldn't happen anymore. But yeah, if there's anything like audio level wise, it seems like so far we've kind of hit the audio level just right. I haven't seen any complaints, but if there are any, let us know and we'll kind of keep track of that.
Yeah. And, you know, it's we have a couple ideas we might be implementing down the road here. And again, you know, like we always do, if you want to support us, guys, patreon.com/ASL English. We love you, and we wouldn't be able to do this without you.
Yeah. So taking a look at this very first game here, this is a very forward 8 racks. So this will probably be 8 barracks into Vulture, and it might even follow up with Wraiths or something like that. Now we're waiting to see from SoulKey, does he expand or does he go spawning pool from this? And it looks like he will be going for an expansion. So this is best case scenario for JyJ's build. But even so, just because you're hitting an 8 racks against an expansion first, it doesn't mean that you're just going to kill them right there. Zergs have gotten pretty good at defending this with their drones, but sometimes it sets you really far ahead as well.
So in case you're wondering, why are we seeing JyJ do an aggressive move, and why was, like, just before we started this game, why was I talking about, you know, will we see him do a cheesy play? It's because on this map, the natural expansion is on a high ground. And in StarCraft 1, there's chance to miss when shooting from low ground onto high ground. So it's just really hard for the Terran to ever bust a Zerg's natural if they're going to go with the standard style. So a rush like this can create better opportunities early on here, and that's what JyJ is going for right now.
Yeah, he is going up for this push. Now, the thing is with this, if you're going to get your factory on time, you can't really make a bunker. Generally, it's going to be 3 Marines, 2 SCVs putting pressure on, but you could cut things to try to get that, like stop making SCVs, but it makes it progressively more all in. So that's the question, like how crazy are we going to go? See, he's getting just exactly the right amount of money for a factory, gets that up. Now he's going to save for a depot. We have a 3rd Marine coming. We have the 2 SCVs, but can he actually get any drone kills here?
That's the big question. Remember, these Marines, if they're having to shoot up on a high ground, there's a chance the shots will not connect. SoulKey ventures down to the low ground, and 1 drone is killed off.
Okay, so 1 drone so far. He does end up going for the bunker. You know, that will slow down probably his depot a little bit, but that's okay. He's killed 2 so far, and there are Lings coming. So not sure how much longer this is going to end up lasting. The Lings popping out now. Can he actually? Oh, man.
Oh, my God, this Marine.
Yeah, almost gets them before that goes down. He is going to be able to bust through this and kill off those Marines. So 3 drones end up dying. It was a successful 8 barracks opener.
This is a funny moment because now these drones that were used to defend, they have to just go back and mine at the natural because it's too much lost mining time to send them back up into the main. Yeah, it was a success. It wasn't a devastating blow, though, to SoulKey here. The Lings are going to come forward. Now, the Vulture coming out, a Vulture can take out all of these Zerglings, and there's really not a whole lot that can be done until Zergling speed's upgraded. The fact that a Gas Geyser just finished means that Zergling speed is pretty far away. So the Lings are basically just trying to buy time, trying to maneuver back and forth between the high ground and the low ground of this ramp to make the Vultures maybe miss a shot or 2 before they eventually actually come full on towards the Zerg's base. A Sunken Colony finishes. Now, I actually don't know the details of this build. This is a pretty out there build. Do you ever want to run by with the Vultures or Tastosis, or do you just go for a contain?
Yeah, you go for a containment here. With the Sunken, if he blocks with anything, you'll lose both your Vultures. Like, you can literally pull your drones, and you just slow it down for a moment. Sunkens kill Vultures very quickly, so he should just sit back. Notice he leaves 1 at home, 1 in front, because a lot of times Zergs will, like, sneak their Lings by before the Vultures get there, and if you leave nothing at home, you can be in trouble. But there's a huge mind game going on. He built the starport somewhere SoulKey could see from the high ground. When he killed all the Lings, he canceled and went for the command center. So from there, what do we see SoulKey do? He thinks Wraiths are going to be on the way, at least one Wraith, or a dropship perhaps.
Oh.
And he threw down a Hydralisk Den. Now, one thing, SoulKey deals with this type of play different from every other Zerg. He likes to get the Hydralisk Den, but still get his Spire on time. So he oftentimes sacrifices a bit of his economy to both block what you're doing, but still have that sharp Mutalisk timing. Whereas here, JyJ, I believe, is just going to go into a defensive mech play. So if SoulKey, like, cuts some extra drones, tries to get aggressive with this, I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
I think we're going to see... Well, I see the armory there. Is there any chance this could be mech Artosis?
Yeah. I
mean,
I think it will be. It makes the most sense by far, especially since you already showed the Starport. Because Starport says, like, Wraith probably... you know, possibility of Valkyrie into Marine Medic or Wraith into Marine Medic. And you can see he's playing really defensively Creep Colony in that mineral line. Like, right now, he thinks it's probably a Vulture drop, but it absolutely isn't. It's going to be mech. He's getting a lot of defense that isn't going to help him at all. Like, I think that JyJ has gotten a better opener here, without a doubt. Oh!
Yeah, this is really impressive. You know, we were spending a lot of time in the pre-show talking about the fact that JyJ, you know, he's so known for being a raw strength, Marine, Medic, Science Vessel kind of Terran, SK Terran, as some call it, that we were wondering how would he play a map like this. And he's really brought out a very cool opening with a switch into mech. I mean, looking at what SoulKey's doing on his side, it makes sense, but it's only because, you know, he's reacting to a more normal response, like a Vulture drop, like we were talking about. The fact that he's wasted a Sunken Colony, he's still on 2 bases, the Spire is about to finish, but Goliaths are already being produced and being produced at a rate where the Mutas are going to have a really hard time doing anything. Ooh, look at this Vulture running. Wait, you can go under that?
Yeah. I
didn't know that.
I wasn't aware of that, but he's just trying to see what's up there. I have to mention this, Tasteless. Yeah, he gets up, sees the bunker. SoulKey's going to know that he's in a bit of trouble here, especially as the Goliaths come up to shoot. But this is actually even trickier than I thought. Right now, it looks like he's using a build that was popular for like 2 weeks, like 3 years ago, which is one factory ranged Goliath into bio. So right now, SoulKey, with what he just scouted, he's like, okay, I'm playing against mech, and he's going to prepare to play against mech. And against mech, you can, for instance, just make like a bunch of Hydras and Mutas, or just a bunch of Mutas, and hold it off for a bit. But this is going to be Goliaths zoning everything out so it can't scout into a mass of bio, Marine and Medic. So, like, if you're making just Mutas, you're going to get crushed here. Like, this is such a mind-gamed game from JyJ.
This is so advanced. I can't even believe it. You're completely right, by the way. You know, the barracks have been thrown down. From the outside, this looks like a Goliath accumulation build. So he basically initially tricks the Zerg into thinking, okay, well, their Vulture drop's going to come, so get ready. Then he sees Goliaths, the Zerg does, excuse me. He sees the Goliaths, he goes, oh my god, it's mech. And then he's going to switch back into bio. I mean, this is like truly some advanced tournament best-of-5 play coming out of JyJ. And I don't know if anybody would be able to stop what's going to be coming here from SoulKey. I mean, SoulKey is having probably one of the hardest games of his career right now.
Yeah.
Not because he doesn't understand the game, it's because he understands the game too well. And JyJ is figuring out a way to stay ahead of, to basically navigate SoulKey's thought process and then be one step ahead.
Yeah, and I don't believe he caught vision of that Medic. You know, it's so well done. Like, the zoning here is perfect because you must zone them out. Now, look, there are things that are, like, pointing towards this being weird. So we have no SCVs on gas anymore, and we had so many turrets in the main. Those 3 turrets, like, if you're going 2-factory Goliath, you don't actually need that many turrets. So SoulKey, there's a possibility he can read this slightly. He does have Burrowed Lings here watching. That's a very common play against mech. And now he's going to see the bio, but can he make enough to hold on?
Yeah, this is the big moment. And again, we got to go back to the big theme of the map. It's very hard to push up a natural. Sunken Colonies, very good against Goliath. It's definitely not a good matchup for the Goliath at all. The infantry are here. We have more sunks being made. The 6 o'clock base, or almost 6 o'clock base, is very, very sunken light. I think there's actually not even any sunks there yet. I think one's going to start, but 3 lurkers, I don't know if that can actually deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah, the Goliaths actually do fine against lurkers. You can just kind of walk them over and get them on top of it as long as you have that scan. I did hear like a scan, maybe 2 scans already this game, so I don't know exactly how many he has left. But you can see how the mutas can't even really harass the Marines here. The Goliath's keeping them out of range. Stims forward now. He's trying to take this all out. He is going to lose a big group of his bio. Oh my god, I think SoulKey might be able to hold this.
Where's the scan? Does he not? Okay, there it is.
And look at that, the missed shots. This is what we were talking about, why this can be so hard. But it's still enough here from JyJ. He is going to be able to barrel through this third base and gain a huge advantage.
I mean, this is such an incredible play. You could see that SoulKey just wasn't quite ready in time. The fact that this third base is going down, this is almost a killing blow. In fact, if you look at SoulKey's face, he shook his head a second ago. As he's computing what's happening, he's trying to figure out, okay, like, what do I do now? He lost some of the mutas in that fight. He's obviously lost those 3 lurkers that were there to defend. He's going to try to snipe the tank, which is not a bad call, because one of the follow-ups in a build like this is you make a couple tanks and just kind of do a very slow push outside the Zerg's natural on the low ground as you slowly shell all of the remaining sunken colonies at the natural and end the game.
Wow. And the tank actually had +1 armor, so lived through that hilariously. You actually, +1 armor is actually really, really good with mech against Zerg. A lot of people used to do it. But yeah, right now, SoulKey is trying to retake a base. Looks like he's moving out some lurkers. I think these lurkers, he might be going for like a hold position play. But the thing is, this is a transition from JyJ into regular SK Terran, it looks like, and with maybe a few siege tanks mixed in there as well. So he's got like everything he needs. This is, that's too bad. That was the opportunity.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, there you go. He does get some good spines, but yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. This army from JyJ, I don't think SoulKey can hold on.
Yeah, he's going to come across the map now. 2 tanks are here, and I know that we had a Queen's Nest finish. I don't know how far along the hive is. Oh, these tanks are kind of out of place here. He could just end up sniping this. That would be massive. Yeah,
actually, you're right about that.
He should be able to get one.
That's huge. Killing even 1 tank, that's 50% of the tanks. It's going to slow it down so much. Gets the other one. Pretending to go for a counterattack, I don't think he is. I think he'll just loop around and go somewhere else. Oh, might be able to force a cancel on that third base. Nah, has to get out. But good picking off on those tanks. I tell you, this is already a great game 1. The fact that SoulKey is even still alive, still fighting in this game is impressive, because this is one of the best thought out mind games I've seen in a Terran vs. Zerg.
The vessel goes down. JyJ's got to be more careful. Some of these really important units that are central to being able to close the game out have been picked off. The 2 tanks, the vessel, all that. In fact, I think JyJ may be out of range of actually pushing up into the natural and then the main, and so instead he's going to come down here and try to hit this fresh new third base. Now, this is one where there's a high ground area, but the lurkers didn't get control of that. And so the Marines, I mean, if he gets vision of this, he can just kill this, but it seems like the vessel was pulled away just to irradiate one of the mutas. The tanks are being targeted, and this is going to be, what, the 4th tank or the 5th tank that's been picked off in this game.
Dude, I tell you, like, it's such a good strategic plan here from JyJ, but SoulKey is playing out of his mind, holding on, killing off tanks. Unfortunately, I think that JyJ gave himself such a lead with the strategy. You know, the real-time aspect here isn't going to be enough for SoulKey to come back with.
I mean, this may just do it. I know that there's going to be a hive. If there may already, in fact, be Defiler tech, but I mean, you can only lose a third base so many times. I mean, we're getting to the point in the game where the Zerg should have already been securing a 4th base and really trying to take control of the game that way. The counterattacks are good, but they're not going to do too much until the Terrans mined out his natural, and we're still a little bit of ways away from that. GG is called. JyJ, I got to say, man, I really have chills from that build. That was so good.
Yeah, that the mind game was so strong. Like, he planned the entire thing. Because I was wondering, like, is he doing this on the fly? But honestly, it was way too well planned, and the starport was in... You would never put your starport there, because every time you 8 racks, they are going to break it before your Vulture's out, and your Vulture's going to get out as they get to your base. That's just the timing of how this build works. So he knew the Lings would get over, and he purposefully built the starport close enough to that ramp so that he knew the Zerglings would see it, and he'd get that counter out of SoulKey. This was such a big brain play.
Well, he's off to a great start, and now we're going to be on his turf here, JyJ's turf, because we're going to go to these more standard macro maps. Quick recap here of the push down at the base on the bottom. And, you know, the high ground advantage, yes, that helps, but the Marines get there basically right before the Lurkers can burrow. And also, you can see that there was a staggering with each of the Lurkers hatching, which didn't allow them to all burrow at once and get the kind of firepower they needed. The Goliaths ate a little bit of damage, but it was totally fine. I mean, the Goliaths could basically ignore most of the mutas, still fire down on low ground to high ground, killing off the Lurkers. And when this base falls, it's very, very tough for the Zerg to ever recover. Zergs basically have to get their third base up and running and play a safe game, or it's one of the more difficult games of StarCraft you can ever try to play.
Yeah. You can't really play 2-base Zerg against 2-base Terran. It's not like you can do it for a little period of the game, but certainly not up to that long. So that is game number 1. JyJ leads 1-0. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, set 2 on Polypoid.
우주급 텐션, 최고의 토킹, 핫식스 토킹.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로. 청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터. 칠성사이다.
Welcome back. Thank you for waiting. ASL continues on now with JyJ versus SoulKey. And I was kind of unsure of, who I thought was going to take this match. But honestly, after that JyJ game, I am so impressed. I think this is going to be a really, really tough next few games here for SoulKey.
Yeah, this could be a tough series. Although I do feel like SoulKey was playing well. It's just JyJ had such a plan in place there. SoulKey's going to have to double think anything he scouts or doesn't scout in the coming games, because when someone gets an advantage like that, it is so unbelievably overwhelming and so hard to try to fight back against. You know, killing that third base twice, you're never going to win. So we're going to go into Polypoid. This is like our most standard map, I guess. Let's see how SoulKey wants to play it. And JyJ, I would imagine he's just going to play straight up. I think that's the right thing to do here in set 2.
Okay, SoulKey here in the bottom right, JyJ in the bottom left. JyJ currently with that 1-0 map lead. This is a map, if you watch StarCraft, if you play StarCraft, this is, I think, basically the most played map. And so, for a matchup where you have someone like JyJ who's got great fundamentals, it's going to be a pretty daunting opponent to go up against here for SoulKey. Not to say that SoulKey doesn't have good mid-game or good late game, but JyJ is so good at overpowering. We talked a little bit about how JyJ might try to do something crazy in Game 1 because the map didn't really suit his play style, and he did that. Is there any possibility that we get something weird? I like that sign that showed up for a second. Is there any possibility that we have something kind of out there or cheesy? Oh, they're gonna bring him back. One of the guys in the chat from Canada.
There he is. Guy in the chat in the crowd.
We are so happy to have you guys able to see the show live. If you haven't seen an ASL live, man, and you're going to Korea, I highly recommend you go check it out. The studio's great. Just to my question real quick, Tastosis, is there any possibility SoulKey does something weird or out there?
Dude, honestly, I think it's a little bit hard to do anything too mind gamey with Zerg. Like, they exist, but you have to get a bit lucky for it to work, right? Because, like, the thing is, at the end of the day, if Zerg starts to screw around too much, Terran can go, like, you know, like 3 racks, Marine Medic, into 1 factory, 1 starport, and it's such a catch-all if you do it correctly that it can be hard for Zerg to pull the tricks off. So, like, honestly, I think that he'll probably just play, like, a more standard game here. You know, it can be a good macro map. The one thing I do have to mention is that positionally, this is better for JyJ. You know, I mentioned this last time. If the Terran is counterclockwise from you as Zerg, that's an advantage for Zerg on this map because the naturals are not set up very well for missile turrets. And so the mutas can basically, like, you can fill the entire space with missile turrets, and if Zerg wants to, they will kill all of them. You know, at that point, you're starting to get a little towards all in, and if they go Valkyrie, you could get in trouble, that type of thing. But, like, you know, that can be an issue, but that's not going to be here with these positions. So JyJ is going to be happy with that. SoulKey, you know, he could have had an advantage if JyJ had been, like, top left, or top right, rather, or SoulKey had been top left. But, yeah, I think he's just got to go, like, a 2-hatch layer, you know, maybe 3rd hatch in main, and then, you know, take his third base as he's going out with his mutas and just play like kind of a standard game and try to grind it out.
This SCV is going to glide up into the main. See that the layers started. Nothing looking too suspicious so far here. This is a pretty common way to play. It does seem to be on the rise, by the way. 2-hatch in a layer over 3-hatch in TVZ now.
Yeah, we have, you know, it's cyclical a little bit. Like, 2-hatch is certainly more popular, but 2-hatch with 3rd hatch in the main, which is what this is going to be, is very, very popular right now. And some Zergs have even started going for a slightly later gas for slightly higher economy. But this should just be a 3rd hatch right in the main base, based on that gas timing and everything. And you know, that'll give him that extra production. It'll make it so that, like, 2-racks Academy rushes aren't going to be scary. And you can see here that JyJ is not even going for that. This is so common from Terrans now as well, is to just get that very fast +1 attack.
Now, I've seen these games where they'll make the hatchet around this time, the 3rd hatch, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
But they'll sometimes hide it somewhere. Is that, like, what is the rationale for that? Is that just a kind of cheesy move, or are you looking for the Terran to do something in particular.
Oh, do you mean hide it in the main or hide it at another base?
Hide it at another base.
Oh yeah, so if you go for a slightly faster gas, sometimes you make your hatch at a different base, but that's where the 2-Racks Academy, if they figure out where it is, like they can just go kill it. Or you can go like mass speedlings to try to counterattack or surround that army, but that it starts to get really risky, right? Like you're gonna have to use a lot of larvae that were supposed to be drones to try to make sure that you defend it, whether you're like flipping coins on whether or not they're gonna move out, or you're trying to kill that, or just making mass sunkens. All those things have upsides and downsides. So, it has to do with the style you want to play, but it definitely has more risk inherent in it.
Interesting. Well, in this game, JyJ's healed himself off, and he's doing really what he does almost better than anybody in the entire world. He's going to go right into that 4-Racks Marine style. He's going to have a lot of pressure, a lot of map presence coming up here. You can see SoulKey is staying outside of the entrance, just monitoring the Marine production. You have to imagine SoulKey's already assumed that this play style is coming. The question is really going to be, how will he deal with it? He's got 600 gas banked up, and so he's going to have a bunch of mutas coming up here pretty soon. We're still waiting to see JyJ throw down those turrets at the last possible second, as we've got a drone headed over here towards the top right to make a hatch.
Yeah, he's got to get that third base going. We'll see if he takes the natural or the main. Looks like he's going to go towards the main, more defensible on that location. I think that's the right choice against someone who hasn't moved out at all. You kind of expect that this is going to be a quick +1 build, so you don't want to try to take another natural. A little bit of harassment. See, he's just trying to, like, when you attack like that, it's almost like you're saying, hey, my mutas are on the way, and they're a little bit slower here. SoulKey taking his time, making sure he has enough drones. He's got a good economy. But yeah, this is pretty much as standard as it can get, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a real... If you were going to show somebody what TVZ is supposed to look like, this is it.
Pretty close, yeah. Nothing crazy so far this game. The mutas are going to dive in here, and it's not that many yet. So this is kind of an expeditionary force. He sees that it's 4-Racks. He's going to have to make a few sunkens and be careful about that, but he's got to get out here and dog those Marines a bit, right? Like he's got to make sure that they don't make too much headway.
Yeah, he's generating some threats. He's also staying in a position, or he was a second ago with the mutas, where he can intercept smaller number of Marines that are sent out. A scan goes down, and he sees that the hatchery is in the top right. Now, that is the common place to put the hatchery because the ramp is so defendable. The Marines are going to get a little bit further out on the map, and I actually think out of all the Zerg players I've seen in the whole world, I do feel like SoulKey is the best at killing off these groups of Marines in the middle of the map.
Yeah.
Whenever they overstep.
And notice that JyJ gets back just in time. He knows this, right? Like if you just look at SoulKey games, that's how he wins a lot. Is you go a little bit too far with that group, he brings everything together and slaughters it. And if he does that, he's like just about unbeatable. So, JyJ has done a great reinforcement. SoulKey does have a nice, healthy group of mutas there overall. And good micro from JyJ, though. He is picking off a fair amount.
Okay. The Marines are getting slowly picked off. He is not able to reconnect these up here just yet. But a nice attack back over here from JyJ is going to drive this a little bit further away. All the Zerglings are dropped. Just a couple Zerglings mixed in with the mutas can do so much. Because remember, when you stim attack, especially if it's an attack like an A move, the more targets there are, the more likely the Marines are just going to attack different things and then all die. It's why it's important for the Terran to try to target the mutas. But if you get enough with the Lings and the mutas at times, things can really be turned on its head. This is the matchup that's not a mirror matchup where both armies at the start are so glass cannony. It's kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Either army can fall if there's like critical mass on the other side, and it's funny to watch them sway. But we're almost getting to the number for JyJ, not quite, where it gets super cost efficient. But SoulKey has a lot. You can see him moving all of these groups. He really wants to kill this army, and he's going to try for it. Jumps in on top of it. His mutas taking a lot of damage, but that allows his Zerglings to deal more damage as well. And now he's going to go after this next group. JyJ was trying to reinforce, and SoulKey kills everything.
I have lost count of how many games I've seen, no matter who the Terran is, where SoulKey just is able to get the kill. Whether it's right outside the Terran's base or all the way across the map, he's so solid. And this is a big reset button that's been hit over here for JyJ. He's still in this game. He can still win this long term, but he's lost total control of the map. We see +1 range attack is done for the Terran, but +1 air attack is done for the Zerg. And this is just becoming a game that it looks like is going to have to go to high tech now. I mean, that top right hatchery, first of all, it's never going to get pushed because it's so far away, but the Terran has no map presence. It can't push into the bottom right where the natural and main are for the Zerg either.
Dude, I'm really excited right now because unless JyJ hits right before the lurkers are ready, this is going to that hive tech. This is going to a big macro game. We don't see the factory with any sort of add-on. We see SoulKey pumping out hydras right now to make those lurkers. And that just means that it's like we're going to see JyJ in his full macro SK Terran mode, which he is the best in the world at, in my opinion. And, you know, SoulKey is just going to have to go into the hive, get his Defiler mount. Yeah, there it goes down. You know, and it's going to be like a grind of Plague and Darkstorm trying to hold bases and JyJ trying to break him.
Okay, the Lings are going to come down now. I don't think SoulKey should have pushed in right there.
Yeah.
It also seems like he wasn't sure if he was supposed to target with the mutas or let them kind of do their thing. He let him, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know Muta Micro that well, Tastosis. I certainly don't, but I think if you charge with the mutas and you hit hold position, they'll all default onto a certain target.
No, so
like a different one.
Yeah, so there's a lot of targeting that happens to make sure they pick things off, but actually if you go up a little bit closer and hold position, it does this giant spray. So like if you're attacking hurt Marines, I believe that's generally what they do, is they get a little bit closer, hit hold position, and you can kill a ton of Marines at once with that. I believe that's the case. I don't do meter harassment myself, so.
Yeah, I've been meaning to, like, at some point in time in my stream, just sit down and, like, try to do a muta map to figure this out. But there's many different ways to make the Mutalisks attack. This is one of those very detailed things we don't usually bring up because we're trying to talk about pretty broad topics. But it did seem like there was a micro error there. He's continuing to gain ground here. I thought there were going to be lurkers in the top right, and am I wrong about this?
He's morphing them. They're going to be down just exactly at the right time. He's going to bring them down. And one thing to mention, that third base JyJ is taking is really interesting. He's taking the gas base first and focusing on getting gas, which is not common. Now he literally burrows us at the last possible second, and this is SoulKey macro ZVT. He's so good at this. You can see he's had exactly enough at every moment in this game. Look at his supply, 93 against 116. Like, how many games have we seen from these top Terrans where right now the supply is 70 against 120? You know, and SoulKey has just done such a good job of reducing his opponent's army count, of macroing himself up. He's about to have his Defilers out, but there are a lot of vessels coming up. So can SoulKey reduce those vessel numbers?
Yeah, JyJ is very good at preserving his vessels. The muta count is low enough that they can't really, target down any one vessel. Another Irradiate comes down and chases that away. Oh my God! Oh. Huge interception. There's one muta left.
Yeah, that's a little bit painful. We're gonna go into battle cruisers. I was wondering about that because you saw him focus on getting the third base at 9 o'clock. And that was specifically for the gas, right? And you actually asked me about this on the previous group, like how important is it to get that gas? And most Terrans don't really care. They'll take the mineral base. Here, JyJ specifically is going for 3 starport battlecruiser. So, that's going to be something that's very, very strong coming up.
He's got to back away from that. So, look, battlecruisers in TVZ, this has been around for actually a really long time. Like, this was late game tech that was mapped out extremely early on in the game. It did seem like it went away for a little bit, like people thought it wasn't that good and you should stay on vessels, but it's been off and on. But battlecruisers this fast, from all the TVZs I've seen, this just feels much earlier. Is that true? And if so, why would you want to get it this early and not lean in on the vessels for a little bit longer?
This is a great way you can play. Basically, if your opponent is going like Lurker Defiler into Ling Ultra Defiler, if that's their tech route, BCs just do very well against all of that. And there's some good solid theory about getting the BCs pretty quickly. Because when you start to get up to these vessel numbers, like right now I believe he has a cloud of about 8 vessels, even pro gamers have a hard time keeping the mana down on those. So you can get into the BCs and it just gives you more pressure around the map. Like you're utilizing all of your vessels, you're microing your marine medic all over the place, and then the BCs start flying in and they have so many different things that they have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's super annoying to fight the battle cruisers as the Zerg because battle cruisers one-shot Scourge. So, you're probably, most of you used to seeing Scourge come and chase these vessels, and that's sort of the menace that the Terran has to be ready for because they can get dropped so fast. But yeah, the battle cruisers can just overpower situations, especially in higher numbers. And it does seem like the noose is getting tightened a little bit over here on SoulKey. Like, these irradiates are coming out so fast. There's so many Dark Swarms coming down to just barely get this 4th base up. Nice snipe on the Defiler as well. And, we're at this moment where the roles switch in the matchup. Terran is going up to 5 base while Zerg's going to be on 4. And Zerg is almost to the point where they don't have to turtle anymore. They can start to go into that 4th gas and maybe tech up into ultras. But with the battle cruisers about to be factored in, this is going to be a real headache here for SoulKey.
Yeah, and in fact, I saw him load up a dropship as well. Sometimes you do a drop at the same time as battlecruisers hit, and that can be a really, really strong move as well. JyJ is actually playing out of his mind, by the way. Again, like, when you start getting 4 bases, like, the best pros in the world will start going up to thousands of minerals. JyJ is, like, maxed out, no minerals, no gas, all the tech, upgrades everywhere, moving his army, expanding, dropping, harassing, irradiating. I can't believe what he is accomplishing right now.
It's pretty insane. Here comes that drop down here to kill off some of these drones. The battle cruisers have been plagued. That's definitely one way to try to deal with this. These Hydras are just going to kamikaze right under these vessels. This is kind of wild. And what the Terran is... Oh, hold on. He's going to just go for a bust. Oh my God, the upgrades are so good. We have a ton of Lings that are going to come down here and try to deal with this. It looks like the Dark Swarm should cover that Lurker in the back, so he's going to try to maneuver back over here and take on these Hydras and Zerglings instead.
Yeah, I got to mention, you see these Hydras, he's starting to field a lot of Hydras out here. So this is actually something that can counter the battlecruisers really well. Hydra, Lurker, Defiler, where you start utilizing a lot of Plagues and Dark Storms with your Hydras. BCs have no counter against that. So as the Hydras grow in number and Plagues start coming out, we should see JyJ switch out of the battlecruiser, whether that's going to mean more vessels, whether that's going to mean he's trying to drop ship more aggressively. We don't know what he's going to do. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be the dropships, but we probably won't see more battle cruisers from here because the counter of these Hydras is too much.
Scourge come in there. Excellent usage of that final muta from before Tastosis. Yeah. His friends died, but he was able to be useful later on in the game by tanking those BC shots so the Scourge could get in. So we're seeing the Zerg fight the Terran back. And I think JyJ may have overextended here. Ideally, what you want to do is have 2 sets of Marines out on the map, and then you're just going to deny the Zerg from ever crossing the map over here. But now the Zerg's going to have a counterattack over here at this mineral only, and I see just a sparse number of infantry here to try to fight back.
Yeah, it looks like he has like some fire bats to remove that one Lurker, but now the 3 dropships come in. All the base defenses that he had before are gone, so these 3 dropships are going to be pretty deadly. Beautiful drop out across the base as well. In the meantime, battle cruisers here in that top right. They've already killed the 4th gas, and they're just wreaking havoc. JyJ, once again, just absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, this is... I want to just point out something big picture here. I think we might be at the tipping point, by the way. Yeah. He can use those battlecruisers to kill the extractors at both naturals.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about battlecruisers being used as a siege weapon to take out a place where you would mine from, but that happened in this game. And, I mean, granted, you're going for Hydras, right? It's not the most gas-intensive thing, but it does really limit the options here. Look at SoulKey's gas right now. He's at 128 gas, and it's barely going up, because his main is already mined out with all the gas.
SoulKey has everything on fire. He's down below 70 supply. He is not going to be able to hold on much longer here, and it does look like JyJ should go up 2-0. Yeah, there it is, GG. I tell you, though, that was, like, SoulKey played very well, but that was one of the cleanest macro games I've ever seen. That is unbelievable that JyJ on 4 bases kept his money at like nothing, was everywhere, irradiates, harassing BCs. He was seamless. That is why he is the best SK Terran player in the whole world.
Yeah, he is. If you didn't believe it then, you see that game and you go, wow, okay, he really is the best at this style of play. It's an extremely mechanically demanding style. It's really easy to fat finger your units or miscontrol something. You're moving with an army that's so brittle. There's so many control groups. Sometimes you're going up to 6 or even 7 control groups trying to move around the map. But, I mean, he really killed it here. By the way, this fire bat was insane. This one fire bat that killed the lurker. And you see that extractor that's gone? I know this isn't what they're trying to highlight, but I just got to point it out. The natural base extractors kept being killed so much that basically SoulKey wasn't able to make anywhere near as many defilers and hydralisks and lurkers like he needed to control this. So eventually everything crumbled. And I think that may be why JyJ goes for the battle cruisers much earlier than normal.
Oh yeah, on Polypoid they're very good. That's for sure. Like when you're in positions like this, all the geysers are up against the edge. This is part of the reason why I was talking about the beginning. Like the naturals are not set up for defending against air units. Some naturals, you will have like the gas on the other side. You'll have more room. You can like maybe put spores in there or turrets in there. But yeah, he kind of uses that against SoulKey there, and that is a very powerful play with those as well.
So, I mean, JyJ's murdering. He's playing some of the best TVZs I've ever seen in my entire casting career.
Yes.
Like, I almost don't know what exactly SoulKey's even supposed to be doing right now to stop this. He's not playing a bad game, but whether it's denying info or really taking advantage of the way the map is shaped and how to punish it, and, of course, having really solid early game all the way to late game, JyJ has it all.
Yeah, honestly, watching a game like that is inspiring as a Terran player. It's like, whoa, someone can do that? Because honestly, that's one of the best TVZs I've ever seen. All right, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, guys. When we come back, hopefully SoulKey can win a map.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식 스토킹.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로. 청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터. 칠성사이다.
And we're back. Thank you for waiting. Fingers crossed that this is not going to be a 3-0, but it's hard to imagine it not being a 3-0 with the way that JyJ is playing.
I know. I'm like, I was really hoping for both of these first Terran vs. Zerg series to like go to 5 games, and you know, be like these awesome monster series where you don't know where it's going to go. But JyJ, the way that he just played that game, Tastosis, I'm actually so inspired. During the commercial break, I was like writing notes in my notebook about like to recheck this and like look at the timings on like the BCs, and it was so seamlessly done. And the thing is, again, just like you know, the last group, JyJ is, I mean, SoulKey is not playing poorly, right? Hero had a lead in 3 games against Rush. Here, SoulKey, he played very well. Like, he got totally tricked in game 1, still played pretty well. Can't quite do it. He was too tricked. Game 2, he actually smothered the first 4s. Like, he got into his hive tech without an issue, right? Like, he did a lot of things super well, but JyJ is just unstoppable.
I mean, he did exactly what we were talking about him doing, which is just, he's so good at that SK Terran style. He's so fluid, so able to take engagements perfectly, always knowing when to pull back. I think SoulKey was doing okay. Like, he was holding his own until he just suddenly wasn't. We saw SoulKey smash the initial push that came out from JyJ. That's one of the things I think SoulKey is truly the best at in the whole world in TVZ, is swallowing up these advances from the Terran and making it look like Terran is always overextending.
Yeah.
But once the next wave came out, it was just like, you know, JyJ was shutting SoulKey down everywhere. And I love those battle cruisers targeting the extractors.
Oh,
it's so smart.
It really
now,
is.
we're going to go to Invader. We're going to go to Invader here for map 3. This is a map where, you know, it's brand new. I don't know exactly how it plays out TVZ. There's 2 exits from your natural. We'll unpack it all for you guys as we get into that game. And hopefully, for the sake of the series, this is one that SoulKey can take. Okay, we've got SoulKey in the top left. And that is going to give us JyJ here in the bottom right.
All right, yeah, that is a very fast SCV. That's a very fast SCV, Tasteless. JyJ has something up his sleeves here.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, an SCV coming out that fast, obviously you're going to be trying to make a barracks there. But, you know, how far across the map is can you do it on?
I think he'll do it at the 3rd base of SoulKey. That's like some close-by buildable terrain. And it's going to be a 7 racks, which is incredibly fast and very, very all-in. Oh, my God. Look at that placement right there. What? I'm confused. I really don't know what this plan is going to end up being.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, this is, we got a pool coming down here, so that immediately, you know, doesn't make this rush anywhere near as strong.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, if you have a forward 8 barracks, then it's like, okay, we're gonna go into a gas and vultures after this. Like, we might still see that from JyJ, but just as soon as you see the pool first against something that looks kind of all in with forward barracks, the Zerg player should be able to take that. Like, for instance, if this was 2 barracks, I would already be calling the game. You know, since it's 1, it's like maybe there's some sort of follow-up with JyJ at home, but like, these Marines he makes literally can't do anything. They're going to be completely overrun by Zerglings.
And, you know, behind this, I mean, when you look at this Artosis from the Terran's perspective, how is the game supposed to develop from here?
Oh, it's...
I mean, it
yeah.
looks to me like you just die, right? I mean, it's almost like you're just hoping that they're going to go for, you know, a hatchery first and you can kind of cheese them out. But now that I'm looking at this, the barracks is so far away.
Yeah.
The gas just now begins. The 2nd Marine is actually running up to height. So there's just nothing back at home.
Yeah, it looks like he was originally planning to send that home to make like a bunker maybe, but he skipped that. Yeah, like he's dead. There's nothing here. There's nothing to talk about. Like SoulKey sees those Marines, so I guess he was holding them for a counterattack. But 3 Marines can't do as much as the Lings, and now he's going to lose all the Marines. So, maybe he's trying to buy time right now so he can get a factory up, but a factory takes 50 seconds. So, I mean, he's like a really long way off from making anything work out here.
Yeah, the factory, I mean, it's at like, 25% completion. The bunker's denied. The Marines are stuck. They're marooned up here at this 12 o'clock base. This number of Lings can cause enough chaos and enough disruptions in mining that the game can just fizzle out.
Yeah. Well, this is, it's a crazy thing in Terran vs. Zerg where there's a lot of risk in the early build orders occasionally, right? Like JyJ was trying to go to the round of 4 basically for free. And, SoulKey went pool first. And that's something I think you need to do as like a championship level Zerg player, is occasionally mix that in so that you can have games that look like this where it's like, hey, dummy, you were trying to rush me? I mean, this game's super over. He's killing so many SCVs at this point. Even if you make a Vulture, it's like, okay, well, you clear these, but he makes a Sunken at home. He drones up like crazy. How do you ever catch up?
Yeah, and I mean, in a lot of ways, I kind of get why JyJ would do this. He's up 2-0.
Yeah.
You're able to gamble a little bit and try to just, steal a game off SoulKey, who might just, he might have opened up with one of the 3 or 4 basic Zerg openings that just gets punished and killed outright by this.
Yeah, but opening with that pool first now, he's got such an advantage. The starport's coming up. Like, JyJ, he's trying to make something happen. But, like, SoulKey can just play pretty normally from here. He has a Sunken Colony, which will stop 1 or 2 Vultures very easily. The Vulture will see that. I think he's going to GG. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's still hope here for SoulKey. SoulKey, by the virtue of his build, is able to disarm exactly what JyJ was doing. And look, I mean, a win's a win. Nobody's saying that JyJ has to do that. You can see JyJ really came here planning out for a huge best-of-5 series. He went for that macro style in Game 2. He had a super giga-brainy build in Game 1, and then a really nasty outright cheese here to kill Hatch first here in Game 3. And SoulKey, he had the right play. He had the right opener. He had his bases covered in that the Zerglings are going to be out on the map, and that's going to ensure that a proxy Rax isn't going to work. And, you can have the craziest proxy Raxes on maps that only have 2 spawns because you can go right to where the opponent is and make those barracks super close. So good call by SoulKey.
Yeah, very well done, without a doubt. So, that's going to be a victory for SoulKey. Maybe that'll give him, a little bit of momentum moving forward. I really would like to see this series get a little bit close. Hopefully not exactly like that through all the games. But I think SoulKey still is of the level that he can win a macro game against JyJ. Maybe we'll see that coming up on Retro, which is a very kind of plain map.
Yes. Retro's made for some crazy games, though.
Yeah, that's
despite
true.
how, in some ways, ordinary looking it is. So that should be a fun one. But the hope is alive. The 3-0 is gone now. JyJ still needs to get one more win. He tried to do a very cheesy build, and it backfired. After this break, we'll find out what happens in game number 4.
우주급 텐션 최고의 도킹 핫식 스토킹.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성 사이다 제로.
청량한 이 순간 칠성 사이다로부터 칠성 사이다.
Thank you for waiting. We're back. We're ready for Game 4. And let's see, honestly, if we can have a reversal here from SoulKey. The question is, how is SoulKey going to look in a game where he gets to go head-to-head?
Yeah. You know, I think he can do it, and I'm hoping that we get a good, solid, big game here on Retro, no matter which way that it ends up going. The last, you know, I really remember the last time that these two played on Retro. Where, remember JyJ went like 2 Starport Wraith and was like killing Hydras with it, and then went into like SK Terran, and SoulKey held on for decades and got extra bases. It was a wild game that we saw last season between these two.
Yeah. So much of the way this has all panned out has been dictated by JyJ. It's interesting since he's so, you know, known for this incredibly passive style where you just sort of build your way up into mid-game and then start roaming. But in fact, in 2 of the 3 games we've had, it's actually been really kind of crazy builds from him. So he's showing a huge range here. Let's see what he gives us as we go into Game 4 on Retro. Going to be cross spawns here to start this off. SoulKey in the bottom right, and his opponent JyJ in the top left. Retro is a map that is, you know, I think they went for a very reductionist approach to this map, and I think it's pretty cool. There's not as many bases on this map as many of the other maps that are out there, that are 4-player, I should say. The center of the map is very flat and plain, so you don't have a lot of these, you know, temple walls you're navigating around, or these, you know, these rolling hills from high ground to low ground. And your third base is very, very easy to take. There's a small bridge that connects you right to that. It's kind of like Fighting Spirit, but if you just smushed down the entire center. Yeah. It's definitely a much better map, I would say. Like kind of a really great map, maybe inspired by it. But I've enjoyed it so far. We've definitely had a lot of good Terran vs. Zergs here. And, you know, being cross-spawn, this is going to take a lot of the pressure off of SoulKey in the early game, but it does make it... You do have that hard decision, right? Like, what do we do about the third base and then the fourth base? Because if you take a third at another main, it's very close for JyJ to pressure, but the fourth might be easier to take. Whereas if you take a third at one of these closer-by bases, it's harder for JyJ to pressure, but it's a long walk to taking a fourth base. So a lot of decisions to be made here by SoulKey if it is, in fact, going to be a regular Marine Medic Science Vessel play from JyJ, which you would expect, right? Like, we don't see that much variation from that. Like, Mech is mixing sometimes, but honestly, from JyJ, I don't see any reason
for him to ever really do something like that unless it's a total mind game like game 1.
And so SoulKey opens up with hatchery first, immediately into a spawning pool and probably a gas after that. JyJ makes his depot and his barracks in his main instead of walling in at his entrance on his natural expansion.
Yeah, yeah, and this natural doesn't have a very good wall. Marines pop out on the outside, so you know that can be really dangerous. See him holding that ramp actually with an SCV as he does send out the scout. This is kind of interesting. If he goes cross scout, that's going to be... He is. Dude, this is a brand new thing that him and Rush are doing. This is a brand new
I don't feel like we saw this before.
No, it literally was brand new. And in fact, Tastosis, after we casted it yesterday, I did it some on the ladder yesterday to try it out. It's really high economy because normally you end up scouting. You scout at like 12 supply and you send a second SCV at 15. Here, you just send the 15 SCV. That finishes your barracks, and you go cross-map with it. And the other one is just checking if a 9 pool is coming. And then you go command center, and it's like, oh, it's like this new economy build, which is it's so weird to see because we haven't seen a difference in this scouting pattern, honestly, in like 15 years, right? Like, we've had the same type of scouting against Zerg forever because it kind of covers all your bases, but it feels like these top Terrans have figured something else out.
It does seem like that. You know, just to help everybody understand this, because I think cross spawn scouting can look really confusing unless you play like a lot of StarCraft. The idea is because that you're on a 4-player map, there are 2 spawns that are close to you and then one that's going to be far away. And so you can scout the spot that's farthest away first, and when you see that, you go, okay, if he's there, you have your build that you were already running. If not, then you alter your build and probably have some different behaviors, like different ways you're going to attack and develop because you know you're in close positions. Like maybe you're going to try to set up for a push a little bit sooner. But in cross spawns, you go, okay, I can't push, so I'm going to be a little bit greedier.
Yeah, yeah. So very, very cool stuff. I love seeing the metagame just kind of change right before our eyes here in ASL games. The command center is up. By the way, SoulKey here has gone for 3 bases immediately. So this is a 3-hatch play at 3 different bases. And I believe this was a quick engineering bay. I was so enamored by the openers that I didn't actually check, but it looks to me, looking at the minimap, that this is a quick +1 attack from JyJ. So I would actually say that this is, as far as the openers go, this is slightly SoulKey favored because JyJ can't actually put pressure on early at all because he only has 1 barracks, which allows SoulKey to drone like crazy, and he can get very late sunkens here.
Yeah, I mean, this is very cool from SoulKey. We've got the additional barracks coming down now. JyJ might try to put on some actual pressure here. You can see the Lings are going to be used to try to just spot and confirm if the Marines are actually there. So there's this little mini game that goes on where SoulKey, and remember, Zerglings don't have great vision, if I remember right. Like, so they have to try to stay pretty close to where the opponent is to see, okay, are you actually there?
Yeah.
And just try to stay out of range without dropping too many Lings or losing too many hit points.
And he's just threatening nonstop this counterattack. It doesn't even matter if you lose health on these Lings, if you end up losing some of them, because he's just threatening that counterattack so you can't move out. So like, look how late these Sunkens are. Normally, if this was like a 2-racks Academy opener, you would have already been across the map and there would already have to be 4 Sunkens, right? So like the fact that SoulKey has been able to stall this out a little bit, you know, where like he got to make only drones and no buildings with them for like an extra whole minute. So right now, SoulKey has this unbelievable economy. It's not that JyJ is doing poorly, but certainly SoulKey has an advantage with these builds, and I'm loving to see it.
So the Marines are going to move a little bit further south. There should be enough back at home that he can defend this. And so the Firebat's there, but he's not accompanied by the medic. Oh!
Would have been big if he got back to those medics, actually. Would have been able to hold this a lot easier.
Yeah.
This is so annoying. And look at this. JyJ just feels like he has to come back with his Bioforce. He loses a few SCVs, loses a few units here. SoulKey's so happy to make him come home. And now SoulKey's going to have mutas. So, like, any of those move-outs that you had planned aren't happening. He only made 2 Sunkens. Normally, you need 4. So this is, like, every edge goes to SoulKey. Look how close their supplies are already, 50 against 54.
Yeah, the mutas are coming up now. Terran can't really do much for the time being. You can see he stims, he tries to drive them back. The mutas will then group back up and start to look for opportunities. And the fact that there's 3 bases already up, the den is literally about to finish. And JyJ has almost no map presence here. Oh my god, a misclick there. He does drop one Mutalisk. That's unfortunate, without even firing a shot.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, it's going to be very tough for JyJ to push across this map without SoulKey doing another one of those moves like we already saw in Game 2, where he just kills that mid-game army off outright.
Yeah, SoulKey looking really, really good. His Queen's Nest has already been started. There is a lot of bio. Like, look at this. 5 racks plus 1 Marines with range and stim. It's scary. That's a lot. The factory gets started. The factory actually, honestly, is like a little bit late, and now SoulKey has to make a lot of Sunkens. I think at really both of his bases, because this is like the one way that JyJ may be able to just turn this around and go to the round of 4, is busting him right now. But if SoulKey holds on, JyJ's tech isn't even very quick.
Yeah, you know, it's important to note that Sunkens made later are always better than Sunkens made earlier. All those extra drones got to mine minerals, gather, up enough to put SoulKey in a much better economic position. So, yes, he has to make sunken colonies, but at a moment where it's much more ideal for the Zerg than it is for the Terran.
Right now, the Mutas just kind of dogging those Marines and Medics. We have Hydras coming up, so Lurkers will be on the way, but that is enough to bust 4 Sunkens right there. So you have to be very careful now with SoulKey. He's going to have to utilize his Mutalisks during any attacks that come in. He is making some more. He is making Lurker eggs. I think SoulKey should be able to prevent dying right here. And in fact, like, JyJ, if he attacks in and those Lurkers pop just after the attack starts, he might be in some trouble. Oh, he's not even going to attack. Okay, he's playing it safe. He's playing it safe.
Yeah. The Lurker placement is so good, especially that one Lurker behind all the Sunks.
Oh, yeah.
The egg over here is going to make it just really hard to ever try to break up here. But there are no other Lurkers up here. That's worth noting as well. Yeah, he's going to have to throw down one more sunken colony. He's going to need to use the Mutas to maybe even tank here. The egg will not die before the Lurker comes out, but
yeah.
I mean, you got to be careful because, all right, he does get it away.
Yeah, if he had been able to pop that immediately, maybe there's some chance. I think it's not quite possible going up the ramp. But you know what? That was an excellent hold from SoulKey. SoulKey's done everything right this game. This is like, I mean, obviously the last game he just kind of free won with the build order, but here, straight up, he's outplaying JyJ at the moment.
Yeah, he's really playing, I think, like a world-class game so far. And from here, I don't think that JyJ can really get anything done. Like, you know, there's only so many places you can try to attack into. And so, I mean, the game goes on. Terran is, with double eBays here, just now going to start to get science vessels into the game. But the Defilers are going to be out long before there can be any kind of push with tanks or you know, an irradiate that could kill a Defiler before Dark Swarm is. That we're basically out of range. I'm sorry, he's going to go for dropships.
I don't know how SoulKey figured this out, but he already has Lurkers in his main base. Like,
yeah, look at that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I'm not sure how he could look at this and say, I think there's going to actually be dropships, not vessels, coming. And they are. They're coming. He hasn't seen them at all. He's just kind of read into the way that JyJ maybe is moving around the map and playing. Maybe he looks at this and says, you know what? He's got to be desperate. Like, vessels are going to be too slow. So he's looking for that asymmetric reward of, you know, dropships getting in and getting a bunch of damage. Whereas if vessels start right now, you're never really going to make a dent. So
yeah, well, I think that you actually nailed it, Tastosis. I think that he's in such a good spot. He goes, well, the only thing he can do now is drop.
Yeah, I think
so. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kill his drop, and I'm going to win the game because he's going to be so behind.
Mm-hmm. Dude, the first 2 vessels are out just after 11 minutes. That's so late. His irradiate pressure is going to be very low. Look at this. He flies up and literally finds the dropships. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. SoulKey is so on top of his game right now. I was with you. I'm like, this is going to be a 3-0. That's too bad. But SoulKey right now is crushing face, and he's even getting the greater Spire. That's actually why the mutas were flying up there. He wanted to maybe siege up the third base, which can be against late vessels is incredibly strong.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, that's a really good point. Later vessels mean you're going to have better, guardians and maybe some potential to push. By the way, 2 factories made just on the bridge outside the second base. Now, is he going to do a mech switch Artosis, or is this just for some tanks?
Yeah, he's expecting SoulKey to go from this Lurker Defiler into Hydra Lurker Defiler, and he's probably right, because SoulKey actually does this more than any other pro, and he's probably the best at this style, and it's very good for this type of map and this type of position. So, like, I think he's also reading the game excellently right now. So, yeah, he's just going to get mass siege tanks to make sure that the Hydra Defiler Lurker isn't going to be something that just kills him outright.
So the third base is up. There's no real way for the Zerg to generate threats. I guess he let that Greater Spire just finish, just in case he wants to try something later on. Oh, there's a bit of a push out here. Not enough Marines to control this area. A vessel glides right into a set of Scourge. But coming up here, SoulKey needs to get a 4th base. He needs to push out on the map and try to get control of this game.
Yeah, he wants that 4th, but he already has Plague, as you can see, so that's really nice. Okay, gonna radiate all of that, but this is, like, you can get a slightly slower 4th when you're playing like SoulKey is right now, and he's actually gonna make defensive Guardians. That's kind of interesting. Did not expect to see that.
Yeah, now, why would he do that?
I think he's got all this gas. I think this is going to support him getting a 4th. Like, that big, like, I don't know, is it a pond that's, like, between this route that goes to the middle, right? Like, right here where he's moving up with the Guardians. You can kind of sit the Guardians in that area where the Marines can't really hit them and support your army moving out.
I guess it also forces out irradiates like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I mean, the Guardians... on the grand scheme of units in the game, they're not that great, but they can push through Marines when they have ground support.
Yeah,
and so
they're like, I think they're a little bit underrated, but there's funny situations where they're pretty weak. But here, I've never seen an attack that looked like this, honestly. This is very strange.
It's almost like he's pushed up into the middle. Oh my God, that was close. Ooh. And now we're going to see more of an attack up here.
Yeah, gets the Plague down. I love to see the Plague over the Dark Swarm there. And SoulKey's push is pretty damn scary. He's going to get maybe on top of these factories, which, that's a big part of JyJ's game plan right now is getting mass siege tanks. So if he ends up losing factories, that hurts. But JyJ with the counter drop, not to be outdone, trying to get some damage here in the main base.
Yeah, the tanks siege up. But, I mean, they can't control this position. The drop gets down in the main. Earlier we saw one of the vessels, or the drop ships get picked off. If SoulKey can just kind of hold this position out here, there's not going to be any tanks. I think with all the Hydras over there in the front, he could make some more Lurkers. This is kind of a crazy game. I never imagined that Zerg would ever, on the bases that they had, be able to push up here. I think that JyJ might have lost control. I think he re-rallied the Marines, which is good. Some of them were just walking right into the Lurkers earlier. But, I mean, now, man, if he just gets up into the natural, then he can kill off the SCVs there. He can then branch out with a few of his forces elsewhere and try to take out the other bases, and suddenly this game is just over.
Yeah, SoulKey's very close to maybe winning this game. Like, maybe there's a little bit of comeback potential that still exists, but with that many Lurkers plus the Hydras to tank, just straight Hydra Lurkers are going to be tough. The factories are gone. So, like, you get enough Lurkers into position, the Marines can't break them.
And so many Irradiates were spent killing the Guardians off, so the Guardian threat's gone, but then the Lurkers can run in here unimposed.
Yeah, that's going to be game, man.
Excuse me.
He's getting right into the natural. Yeah. Oh my God, are we actually going to a game 5? GG. Dude, that game by SoulKey was unbelievably impressive. Like, he did everything right. He read the situation magnificently. Even the Guardians helping his push to go up the map quickly, those did eat up 4 Irradiates that could have been on Lurkers and Defilers.
I mean, Is there any chance, Tastosis, that the plan was always to make Guardians back at home and try to push across the map? Or do you think that was him taking an unfortunate situation that his mutas were spotted, so he couldn't sneak up there and push the third, and then he just tried to, you know, make lemonade out of crappy lemons?
Yeah, he made lemonade out of crappy lemons. Like, he definitely, when he was flying the mutas up, he 100% was going to attack the other base with the Guardian push, force the vessels to come up and deal with that, and then do his push out. Since he couldn't do that, he just grouped it all together. Look at that. They ate up 3 irradiates right there. And then as these push up with the army, it's like, you can't turn around and engage all that. This was so well done by SoulKey.
And, you know, Guardians, again, they two-shot Marines. So that they are scary, and if there's stuff underneath them, things snowball pretty quickly. The problem with Guardians is that they're so slow. But it seems like it did just bait out all those irradiates, man.
It really did.
You know, every time I see a Terran make factories outside their natural, I always wonder what would happen if the Zerg just pushed in there. Kind of like when you see a Dark Swarm in the actual mining line of the Terran's natural, where it's like, well, that just seems like now you've lost control of the game. And that's exactly what went down. Is he needed these tanks to fight Hydra Lurker, and he couldn't get them. And don't forget, guys, you need an add-on to make tanks out of the factory.
Yep.
So you lose a lot of time if they have to lift off and rebuild that machine shop attached to it.
Yeah, it's an extra 25 seconds, half of a factory build time, or almost a siege tank build time. And it makes a big difference. But that was such a perfect kill move from SoulKey. The Guardians actually really did help there too. If the Guardians aren't there, for instance, he irradiates a bunch of lurkers, maybe a Hydra in there, gets a Defiler with the irradiates, and then just kind of, you know, he kites it all the way home. But with the Guardians, you can't kite because the Guardians have better range. So, like, that was unbelievable from SoulKey. I've honestly never seen anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 2-2 Tastosis. What a crazy turnaround this has been. JyJ probably has to feel awful. I mean, it looked like, you know, a little bit under an hour ago, like this was such a mismatch. But here we are. Guys, short break coming up. The final game here in this best of 5. You don't want to miss it. We will be right back.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식 스토킹.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성 사이다 제로.
청량한 이 순간 칠성 사이다로부터. 칠성 사이다.
You know, Artosis, I was thinking about this series, and you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of SoulKey versus Innovation in the GSL finals, where SoulKey did the full-on reverse sweep. Now, GSL finals are best of sevens, which makes reverse sweeps statistically extremely rare.
Yeah.
I think we've had one or two in all the GSLs we've ever done. But SoulKey was the guy that did it. Innovation was up 3 wins, and then SoulKey came back and won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
It seems like we might be having the same situation here in this round of 8 with this best of 5 between him and JyJ.
It's kind of the same thing, too, because Innovation at the time, the best Terran player in the world. This guy's the defending champion. Both of them, at least in this matchup, known for outstanding macro. So, yeah, I'm seeing totally what you're saying there. It's it is kind of reminiscent, and that shows SoulKey's overall quality as a Zerg player. The fact, because that's the hardest thing, I think, for a Zerg player, is to play against a Terran that just has impeccable macro. Like, if you can spend all your minerals, macroing Marine Medic Science Vessel is the hardest mechanical thing to do in StarCraft. In any esport, in fact. It's unbelievable how fast Marines make, and to keep that money down, to spread those out, you have to be so fast. And JyJ is doing amazingly with it, but SoulKey's like out-strategizing him. At least in that last game, man, did he play well.
Yeah, and I think JyJ was really caught off guard by this pretty crazy, you know, entry into the late game kill move from SoulKey. We never really see Zergs end the game at that phase, right? When the third base is really healthy and the Terran is, for the most part, contained the Zerg. That was something very different. Now we're going to go to La Campanella for map number 5. And, yeah, let's see what happens, guys. This game is about to start, which means this best of 5 is going to be concluded here. Who will take it, SoulKey or JyJ? We find out right now. Okay, we've got JyJ, or SoulKey rather, in the top left, and JyJ in the bottom right. And, man, this has been a really good best of 5 so far. I'm really looking forward to this game. It's really tough to say who's going to take it. I know that SoulKey got an easy win in Game 3, but part of that was punishing, you know, a player who's going to go for a super cheesy build on a 2-player map, a 2-spawn map. But, honestly, Game 4 might be the most impressive out of the entire series, and that's saying a lot because Game 1 was insane from the planning from JyJ, and Game 2 was incredible, just execution from the SK Terran side from him as well. Yeah, I know. I truly am impressed by that game. The Guardian push was unreal. Truly, I hope people watching appreciate how wild that was. But here, La Campanella, this map is really, really different. You know, we were talking about how the 3 middle maps were, you know, maps that we could definitely see kind of normal play on. And we didn't necessarily see normal play on those maps. The last couple were a little bit wild. But La Campanella, you can just pop a drone back and take that additional base. You know, for people that remember, this was map number 3 between Rush and Hero. And we saw Hero do that. He took that very fast base. It's easy to defend. And he was able to utilize that to get what looked like a bit of a lead. And then Rush just kind of grinded it back from him. Now, if SoulKey does a similar play, if he takes that back-pocketed expansion, what can he do different to get through the grind that is JyJ's macro Terran? Now, islands play such a big role, and so drops play such a big role on this map. We should note that, you know, this weird free base you get behind your minerals, no matter where you spawn, it's either top, bottom, or the left or the right. These very central bases, which are all pushable. Even with Marines, you can shoot down the extractor, but, you know, one tank set up and you can hit the hatchery. And, you know, there's a similar situation here for the Terran. Let's say the Terran expands there. Well, a Lurker can just burrow right in there and start hitting SCVs. So there are these tempting bases to take, but they're also very, very attackable. And, of course, you know, any map that has these island-ish areas that are huge as far as they, like, cover a lot of ground, there's so many locations you can drop them. It's so true. Dropships can be really fantastic on a map like this. Very hard for Zerg to block every possible location. But, you know, you're putting a lot of eggs into one basket at that point, too.
Now, SoulKey gets up, scouts a wall without a secondary building Marine. Dude, he got out with the drone, and the turnaround, I'm like, well, you could have dived and tried to 100% see. But honestly, when you see there's no Marine building and no SCV out to make a command center, you know it's a factory. There's really nothing else that it could honestly be. So, you know, JyJ, he's definitely doing something different here. Like, is this going to be a Valkyrie rush? Is this going to be a mech build? I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know what we're going to see from JyJ here.
Command center's coming down now. That factory is going to be making the one vulture that comes out. There's only one SCV mining gas for the time being. The vulture is going to be sent across the map to basically contain the Zerg to make it so that Lings can't come out. Dude, this SCV is insane. Are you seeing this?
He has blocked the Sunken 3 times. 4 times.
4 times.
The vulture's coming, Tastosis. 5 times.
What is happening?
5 times.
Dude!
That's crazy. The vulture's on its way.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. He might get a little bit of damage because of this. Oh, you have to block this. You have to block this. How many links does he have? He has 3. I think he'll be okay. But we might see like a unit killed.
Oh, he is so good.
That was scary for a moment, man. Oh my god. Like, that was so many blocks on that Sunken. That's like the dream. You know, Terrans try to do that all the time, but to block it that many times is pretty impressive. Now, it looks like a mech build. Just because it looks like a mech build doesn't mean it is. It could be a build like map 1. But I think it will be a mech build this time. Yeah. Okay, he started a second factory in his main base. There you have it. So JyJ has decided to play mech on this map.
Yeah, and I mean, how exactly? By the way, I'm sorry, I just have to address this. What happens with this hatchery? Do we care that this is being attacked, Tastosis? I'm not sure how to process this.
The Marine adds funny math here. Yeah, so he's gonna make another creep colony to make a Sunken. Normally you don't bring the Marine up, but the Marine actually does significant damage against buildings. The creep colony is a nod towards this, saying, okay, attack this instead. So it eats up a little damage while he builds up his link count. As Zergling speed finishes, he'll run out and force this to stop. He won't lose the hatchery. But it's kind of a cute pressure move. Like, you're really... Oh my god! Ah, the drones wanted to return the gas there. That's so annoying for SoulKey.
Yeah, that's definitely not the intended consequence of that. By the way, the Lings, well, he's going to get rid of these vultures, the Goliaths, you know, chase this Overlord away, but he does see the double factory. So this is a game where SoulKey knows, in fact, there are 2 factories and not 1. Keep in mind, in game 1, he made 1 factory and kind of faked it out and then threw down 3 and then 4 barracks. This is a different game entirely.
Dude, what placement there? Look at that. Blocks every hole, brings his SCVs up on hold position. Really, really well done. Now, SoulKey's going to take that 3rd base that we were kind of expecting. Not super fast. This is why I think JyJ chose mech here. Is, like, normally you hold off mech with, like, Sunkens and stuff once they get, like, a big push going, but I would imagine that he can just punish that base, can't he? Like, if you get enough Goliaths to hold off the mutas, go into your siege tanks and push out, I can't imagine Zerg holding on to their 3rd here, right?
I mean, I agree completely.
Yeah.
As I'm looking at, you know, what he's doing here. You know, this hatchery is causing more problems than I think we had, or anybody had anticipated. It's making the gas mining a little bit weird.
Yeah, it is.
And, you know, the thing about a hatchery is, like, you don't really want to get rid of it. It's the most important building you have as a Zerg. Like, and so I don't know what the impacts of this are going to be long term, but this is definitely worth noting that it's made the gas mining a little bit weird over there.
Muta's poking in a little bit, making sure that he has enough defense. It doesn't seem like SoulKey's planning on staying Mutas. We haven't really seen yet. He's just droning really hard, knowing it's hard to attack him right now. Ah, burrowed Lings. This is going to be, I think, just for a counterattack. That's kind of cute.
I think so. Well, he sees now the Goliaths have gone out. I guess this would be the moment you'd try to go for it?
Yeah, you got to go right away because Goliaths actually beat Zerglings kind of bad. It's kind of funny. But yeah, he gets around that. There is still the bunker there. So maybe this is just stopping some reinforcements. Okay, he reburrows. He knows, of course, you never get detection, any sort of mobile detection quickly here with mech, right?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that at all. I just learned something. I didn't realize you would neglect getting scans if you go Goliath.
Yeah, you can't get it until you normally almost never get it until after 5 factories. It's just it doesn't fit into the build order. It doesn't get you anything but those scans. So it's just it's not too useful.
But it does make the Terran uneasy, you know, about moving out on the map. The mutas are going to come through here. He's got to be very careful because when the Goliaths have the range, the amount of damage that you can end up taking on these mutas is just so much. One muta gets dropped again, leaving only the count to just about 6 right now.
And you know what? That was actually a good flyby because that tells him what's going on. He needed to identify, is this a 2-base all-in or is this a macro play? And it's a macro play from JyJ here. I have a few like really big ideas I want to mention. So it's macro. He's going for 2-1 upgrades. He's going to go for a lot more bases and everything. Now, a lot of Zergs have utilized queens to beat mech in longer games. So we might end up seeing mass queens with Broodling. But Fantasy, right? He's one of the fathers of mech in this matchup. And we know that he was pretty active lately, got up to the top of the ladder, won Gamers 8. He's a friend of JyJ's. And he said on his stream that he thinks there's an answer to queens for mech. He thinks that mech is not washed up in this matchup. He thinks there's an answer. He's one of the best Terrans ever, so you have to take his word on that. So if there's an answer, whatever Fantasy thinks, if we see queens, we should see JyJ utilize because they are friends. So that's very, very exciting. And just one other thing to mention into that, I did see one other Pro Terran, Soso, utilize EMP and zoning of queens with Goliaths. And that's the only time I've seen someone really defeat queens like handedly, so I wonder if it's that. But this is like, we might see a meta game shift here in this one game.
You're giving my brain tingles right now.
Yeah,
I'm having
this is
new
exciting.
wrinkles form as my brain gets, you know, so wrinkly right now hearing this, because I think that everybody just defaults into Irradiate because it works against everything Zerg has, and you can kill a queen with 1 Irradiate. Yep. It's not like it's an Ultralisk where it'll recover. But EMP, I mean, most of the time the queens are on a control group. If you EMP all the queens, you have lost. I don't even know if there's a way to quantify in comparison to how much mana you lose. There's really nothing in any other matchup that I can even think of. Like if you EMP like 8 or 9 queens, I mean, you've been trying to build up mana for
3 minutes,
4, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, you know, and 1 EMP shuts that down. And that could be the end of the game if that's what we get in a game like this.
Yeah. Like we're kind of going out on a limb. Not everyone goes queens, but yeah. See, he's starting to pop queens right now. But this is generally considered the strongest thing against mech, and this is why a big part of why people don't play mech very often is it's hard when they start just. I mean, every time the queen pops a tank, it's paid for itself. And Zerg gets a bigger economy than Terran. So it's like, well, I mean, that's so cost efficient, it's very painful. But we'll see. We'll see. JyJ, I think he's going to have counterplay against this just because he's friends with Fantasy.
You know, I got to point out, too, this is JyJ in match point. The best SK Terran player that is here with us, that is in the game ever, betting his tournament life on mech, probably inspired by Fantasy. How crazy is this?
Yeah, that's the guess. And you know, maybe it's going to be a more Goliath-centric game where you're trying to zone queens like that. Maybe he'll go into supermass siege tanks. You can see the queens being hidden in kind of a random position. This is a funny thing about playing mech against Zerg. When you start getting your scans, you actually will start scanning really random, weird spots, because that's how you're going to tell if they have queens, because they will always hide them off of their buildings.
This is so exciting. So the idea, I guess, from the player who's accumulating the queens is that you can Broodling tanks, and if you get the queens out, you can do more than 1 Broodling over time. You get insane value. And Goliaths, by the way, Goliaths are a funny unit because sometimes they're very weak and can't really kill anything, but if you get enough in numbers against Zerg, they can kind of fight anything. But if you get rid of the tanks that are covering the Goliaths, the army does get considerably weaker when you get into a later part of the game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and don't forget things like, for instance, Defilers. Tanks are really the only thing that can fight Defilers. Like, you need mass tanks there. So if we get into that Dark Swarm, you know, even Plague against Goliaths group up a lot. You know, against just, like, vanilla units attacking head-on, Goliaths do okay against Zerg units. But yeah, that is the problem, is that tanks are really kind of your finishing unit. So not sure what JyJ's plan is going to be in regards to that, but SoulKey right now is keeping him so busy. He's gone up to 5 bases. He's going to have 5 gases here. He's got a ton of queens. He's going up to Hive. Like, for me right now, looking at this, I'm used to Zerg winning from this position. But I don't know. I've gone pretty far out on a limb talking about what Fantasy has said, and you know, I would imagine that if there's a counter to queens, JyJ knows it. What will it be? Right now, I see a ton of turrets. I see a ton of Goliaths. And, you know, that obviously keeps queens from coming up, but the queens don't have to engage until Terran tries to move across the map.
Yeah. There's so many queens. I want to say like 14.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's by the way, if this game feels slow, it's by design.
Yeah.
The player is just going to keep trying to build up. The Zerg is going to bank as much energy as possible. We're going to see that he actually just did a Broodling onto a Goliath, which is suboptimal, but that's because the Goliaths are covering this so well. Now, 2 other abilities the Queen has that we may end up seeing here is Ensnare and Parasite. You know, Parasite probably not on anything of real importance, but it's a really good way to just kind of keep track of what Terran's doing and what's going on here. He's getting the Broodlings off, by the way. Now, again, the tank is the target. Boom, 1 goes down.
Yeah, and you know what? He's picked off a fair amount. There are so many queens, Tastosis. Holy crap. Dude, he's made over 20 queens, I think, this game so far. That is a huge amount of resources. But there are enough Goliaths that he hasn't gotten that many tanks yet. Broodling against the Goliath is not super efficient. Like, obviously, it can gain you value if you keep the queen alive. But Terran is looking to kill you with, like, 1 push here. So if you don't stop this push and you use all those Broodling spells on Goliaths, that wasn't so helpful.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah, the thing is like, you have so many queens in this game. Keep in mind, you do have to have some kind of an army to actually fight stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the queens don't have an attack. I know we have a lot of people that watch StarCraft 2 that might not realize queens they are just spellcasters in this game. It's not like, okay, here we go. Hold on. Big push.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to get some Broodlings off here. The Hydra's coming in a gigantic arc. There are a ton of them. But honestly, he doesn't get that many siege tanks, and you can see how strong those siege tanks are here. The mass Goliath, mass siege tank, maybe this is what Fantasy was talking about. JyJ stopping like 20 queens.
This is insane. The push is going to continue upwards. And, honestly, I don't know if SoulKey has enough to keep taking this on. He needs to basically Broodling down about half of this. At this point in time, I think you just take whatever you can get. It's more important to just get them out. He's doing this, by the way, JyJ is without EMP, without anything, to really directly address the fact that you can Broodling stuff at all. He's just sort of powering through it. He's and we're at the point where he's knocking right at SoulKey's door.
Yeah, he's moving up into position to start killing bases. Siege is up here. These queens have enough energy. Hopefully he'll actually cast those spells if he wants to win this game. But right now, maneuvering a lot of his units around the back. Dude, if he can get his Broodlings off really quickly, I think he can still hold this.
You might be right. He's doing a great job here. Even these Broodlings might be able to take on that tank. I don't know how many Broodling hits it takes to actually kill a tank, but it is important to note. I think a lot of times when we think about Broodling, we just think it kills a unit because the Broodling itself is such a crappy unit. But, if you're casting a bunch of these, I guess you do have to factor in the math and the fact that it's almost like you're Zealot bombing the siege tank, right? Like you just saw those tanks draw fire on top of the other tank. And so, you know, there's another whole factor as far as how damage is going to be distributed that could really mess those tanks up as well.
Look at this. The Broodlings, they want to be one of the guys going in with the Hydras to kill off those remaining Goliaths. But he does kill that base. He's taken the center. And he is starting to expand to the top right while SoulKey's taking bottom left. So the Queens did end up killing a fair amount of tanks. But I feel like JyJ did well enough that he's still in the game. You know, like, I don't feel like he's dead for having lost the amount of tanks he lost, which oftentimes I will feel like. It's just, he did end up getting value out of that. He killed a lot of Queens. He killed a lot of Hydras. He killed a base as well.
Well, the tanks are going to move up here and try to protect this, the crucifix-shaped mineral patch that I guess I never really imagined this was going to be the 4th base, but I guess that's what we've got. Now, I do also want to say that, oh my God, Tastosis is just clean doing what I think I... Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Good.
I don't know that there's going to be any usage for Infested Terrans. I honestly don't think we'll see him make any, but that would be cool as well.
Tastosis, don't ruin this cast. He's 100,000% going to make an Infested Terran. It's 500 damage. It's the coolest voice of any unit in the game. We have to see one.
That is so, so true. Now, he's got a lot of Queens out there still. JyJ taking over the center of the map. This is really neat. The way he has the center of the map, so it's hard for SoulKey to move around. And then also he's got all these turrets, so it's like hard to get in there and get your Broodlings off. Look at this. He's doing a great job zoning the Queens back, right? Like, he's got the turrets spread out, tanks siege well behind, and the Goliaths just, he is focus firing Queens every time he sees them.
Now, can you return minerals to an infested command center, or is it just a building that produces stuff that can attack?
Yeah, it only produces. If you could return minerals, that would actually be pretty sick for Zerg. I think we'd see more infested command centers at that point. Look,
yeah, because I saw he's going to land this over here. I thought that maybe, like, you could, I don't know, like, drop some drones off over there or something, but I guess he just lands that as like a placeholder.
Yeah, I could see him using it to tank turret shots to get over here, you know, like that type of thing would be cool. But yeah, it drops out some Hydras on top of these missile turrets, and that's going to be a little bit annoying. He does have to clear that, but he shouldn't end up losing it, I don't think. Or maybe he will. Damn, Hydra damage is so big with that +3.
Yeah, Hydras are good units.
I don't normally have to deal with this being a Terran player, Tasteless, but there they are. Turns out they kill buildings pretty quick.
Yeah, as a Protoss player, I can definitely promise you they are very good units. So he's killed off that command center. We have 6 o'clock taken, but I mean, look at how many bases SoulKey has. I would have to imagine he can drop this pretty easily, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. SoulKey right now has a huge amount of supply. His economy is right back to where he wanted it. But JyJ is doing a good job. Like, he is expanding. He's gonna retake that base that he just lost. He's doing a good job of zoning out Queens in general. That is one big thing. Queens don't have an attack, as you said. So it's like we are watching about 50-ish supply of units that can't attack. Plus, you've got to count in, he's probably got 65 to 75 drones. So the standing army can only be about, you know, 70 Hydras, which sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but like that doesn't just straight kill a mech player.
It does seem like Queens don't cast a spell that quickly. Like, they got to kind of move up and full stop and then fire it out. But I don't really have much else to say than that. I'm just sort of taking an appreciation of you know, how exactly you want to actually get those kills off with that unit. You know, if the Queens stay alive throughout the entire game and just keep casting Broodlings over and over, that's going to be some crazy value that I can't even really math out in my head, because this is just such a different way of casting. Oh my God, the Overlords are bugged.
Oh man, yeah, you can't drop at exactly the same location, so they are bugging out and dying to those turrets. A terrible moment there for SoulKey. And he is going to lose like 5 or 6 Overlords full of units getting no damage. Here he does have a lot of Broodlings coming in, but I think JyJ might still be able to kill that base.
Well, I mean, he does have enough tanks over here. I mean, you really get to see how much damage tanks with +3 do against Hydras. It's insane, man.
Yeah, they really
but we are
splatter.
seeing the limitations. We are seeing the limitations of mech. Generally speaking, it's kind of hard to get anywhere on the map. I mean, Zerg is just so able to kind of be everywhere that, you know, Terran can neither really push in and take out a position, nor can they defend all the spots they need to defend. The middle base, by the way, this is about to get mined out.
Yeah, it's getting pretty low. Another attack coming in here. He is getting a few broodlings out flying through some of these missile turrets. And that is a huge round of Hydralisks coming in. Now, that's still quite a few siege tanks left over. I think that he should be able to just barely hold on to the center. Obviously, the minerals are almost gone there. But he still needs to, like, hold on. If he gets pushed all the way back to his main base, there's no way to win the game.
I mean, that was quite a trade. Keep in mind that this is really the Zerg trying to get lots of value here. I think long-term there are problems for the Terran. Yeah. The Zerg is going to probably get the top right entirely. The Zerg already has almost the entirety of the bottom left. And, you know, Terran, after this, you know, this main base is almost mined out anyways. There's essentially just one patch over here. It's going to be down to this bottom center island base and this center right base. I think long-term, SoulKey's got this. Oh, my God. And JyJ taps out.
Wow. Whoa. Wow, what a series. I can't believe he gets a reverse all kill. Some amazing play there at the end. I think we did see some revolutionary stuff from JyJ. Honestly, I understand now. He didn't make a single vulture after the first two. He went all of his minerals into missile turrets to zone out drops as best he could, to zone out queens as best he could. Just Goliath tank macro, and it looked scary, but SoulKey didn't give up on his queens. He kept making them. He probably made 70 queens throughout the course of the game. He lost a lot of them, got a lot of broodlings off, though, continued to expand, did some fantastic drops, and now advances to that round of 4. This might be SoulKey's season.
I mean, you beat JyJ. We know that ZVT is no problem, right? It does seem like we're starting to thin out the Zerg players here. Keep that in mind as well. SoulKey still, you know, I think he's improved on ZVZ, but there's no Protoss or Terran that SoulKey can't beat. So this is going to be a very promising season for him, no doubt.
Yeah, just so well done. I am so incredibly impressed. I think the game on Retro and that last game were masterfully done. And not just that, like, we saw a bunch of new stuff here today, Tastosis. The Guardian push, pure Goliath tank turret in Terran vs. Zerg mech. Like, you always see vultures, man. Everyone knows how good the vulture is, but he's like, no, that's not how you do it. If you make vultures, you lose to queens. What? That doesn't sound like it makes sense, but it seems like it does. A really fantastic series. I'm so pleased with SoulKey going forward and being able to take out the best Terran vs. Zerg player, in my opinion, in the world.
Yeah, and you know, this is the most queens we've ever had in an ASL game. I don't need to check the stats to tell you that. Something like 30+ queens were made in this game, maybe even 40, I don't know. There were so many that were out and ones that had to be remade there. And, you know, long-term, you kind of see the limitations of that mech play. Zerg can always lose a base and 3 more spring up on another location on the map, but the queens get so much value. And we talked about EMP, and maybe that was going to be used. For most of this game, like, we don't see it here, but for most of this game, the queens were actually spread out in a way where it wouldn't have mattered anyways. You're not going to get the kind of EMPs off that you need. Yeah. Because this is really long-term, I'm going to grind you down, queen play, and a lot less, I'm going to win, you know, the initial fight with, you know, 8 to 9 brutally shots and then overpower you. Yeah. And, you know, the best SK Terran player, he didn't pick his style. He went with an alternative approach, and he paid for it. Now on to that interview here with SoulKey, where we see how he's feeling.
The victor of our second series of the round of 8 has been decided in SoulKey, who makes it through to the semi-finals, getting his revenge over JyJ in a banger of a series. Congratulations. Thank you. Your wish for revenge and a rematch with JyJ came true, and you took this opportunity to get your revenge in a spectacular series, and now you make it to the round of 4 of the ASL for the 3rd time in your career. How do you feel?
처음에 2대0으로 지고 있을 때
I was off to a really bad start in the series, losing the first 2 games, and I thought to myself, I'm going to lose. It was recommended to me by Light that I do a 9 pull in game 3, and I considered whether I should or shouldn't do it for a while. If I lose, I lose. But the atmosphere needed a change. So I tried it, it worked, and it luckily helped me turn things around. Well, in a situation like that where you're behind and losing 0-2, going for a build like 9 pull isn't an easy decision. It seems you had been going back and forth on that decision. What actually made you decide 9 pull is the way to go? I thought to myself, oh, what the heck? Well, this series isn't going my way anyway. So, in any case, I need to try something like this. Luckily, it worked, and it gave me enough vigor to continue on. It did seem like the momentum carried on for the rest of the series. If we take a look at that game number 4, you went for a Guardian build. You normally play a more standard style with Hydra, Lurker, Defiler. What made you decide to mix in Guardians there? Well, during practice, I also had a few, oh sure, what the heck, moments. And I tried Guardians then, and it seemed to work. I went for the Guardians to counter the tank push timing. The timing seemed to be there, so I just went for it. Well, in game 5, you also showed us your Queen play. You managed to drag the game out long enough with Mutalisks and went up to Queen tech, which was pretty cool, but there was a moment in the game where you lost a ton of Hydras in the center of the map as you were preparing to tech up. And it made me feel you're in hot water. What happened there? I realized that was very dangerous. I thought I need to resolve the situation with some better Hydra control. I think that's what ultimately happened. I just had some good control. Well, you came into this Zerg versus Terran match with a varied and colorful playstyle. However, you are now ahead of a best of 5 against another Terran in Rush in the round of 4. Rush said he would rather avoid playing you because you both practiced together for the quarterfinals. What are your thoughts? In any case, I think JyJ is actually a bit more demanding than Rush because he prepares good builds that can be a bit confusing. I should feel more comfortable in a series against Rush. Anyhow, it's a ZVT. I'll have to do some prep. In the pre-game interview today, you said you wanted to resolve the series through confidence, and indeed that confidence seemed to shine through as you won. We're going to get to see you perform in the round of 4 as well. Do you have anything to say to your fans and colleagues? Yesterday, I was kind of bored, so I messaged Calm on Kakao. He gave me some builds, and it did help. But honestly, I kind of knew what I wanted to play already. However, I was losing and ended up changing my mindset from game 3 with what Calm had told me. I played some games with Rain off-racing as Terran, and it also helped me prepare some builds. He also recommended me some builds. And I also want to thank Barracks, Light, and Sack for helping me practice. I will make sure to prepare for the round of 4 and advance to the finals. Once again, congratulations on making it through to the semi-finals. And that does it for the second series of our round of 8 with SoulKey coming out victorious.
All right, well, this was just so fun. I don't know if we can top this in the round of 8, honestly. Yeah. I mean, even in the round of 4, who knows, even in the finals, this was such a crazy evening of games.
Yeah.
I mean, each of these games was so different. Even in game 3, which was, kind of a straightforward loss, I like those games. I like seeing players take those risks. And I liked, SoulKey having the sense when on Invader to know that, okay, I've got to, be ready for any kind of cheeses, and he shuts that down. And then he was able to combo that into 2 more games, taking it back 3 in a row.
Unbelievable games, truly. Like, yeah, the Invader was like a quick rush that just got shut down, but like those other 4, those are all games I want to watch again and study and look at and be like, damn, this was a special night of ASL. Fantastically done. Congratulations to SoulKey getting that round of 4. And he'll be going up against Rush, right? So, I mean, he took down JyJ, who I think, and I think a lot of people think, is actually stronger in this matchup. But Rush is going to bring a slightly different style, and we'll see how SoulKey deals with that.
Yeah. Can't believe JyJ's out. I thought he was a shoe-in, honestly. I mean, I know SoulKey's an amazing player, but, he really... He does seem to deal with these long, dramatic series almost better than anybody else. This is another reverse sweep. By the way, guys, statistically, a reverse sweep in a best-of-5 is very rare.
Yeah.
And SoulKey's even done it in best-of-7s in StarCraft 2. So this really does say something about SoulKey's mentality, his ability to basically, even when he's really down and out, to recalibrate his brain and focus in, and then have the stamina to win that many games back-to-back in a row after such an incredible psychological blow to start the series off.
Indeed. Now, I do hope that we just sit on this screen for the next, like, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And don't ever look at the bracket or,
what is going on
like
with his shot here? I thought for a second my video was paused. I'm like, Tastosis, you're not going to be happy to hear this. I accidentally hit spacebar.
Yeah. No, that was crazy. But, yeah, there you have it. The round of 4 match between Rush and SoulKey is going to be awesome. Very well deserving, whoever makes it to the finals out of that. And our next couple matches coming up, Sharp versus Mini, Effort versus Action. Dude, I'm actually cautiously very excited about the Zerg vs. Zerg. These are the 2 players that gave us that insane Hive Zerg vs. Zerg. So in a best of 5, I'm hoping to see that 5 games in a row.
And I am super pumped to be seeing Mini versus Sharp.
Yeah.
I think Mini can take this. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think he's going to have to really be ready, especially in the mid-game, for some of those tactics and harass plays that Sharp is so good at. But I think Mini is probably going to be going on to the Final 4, and that's saying a lot because this is maybe one of the worst ASL seasons ever for the race Protoss.
Yeah.
So even if we can get one guy to move on for the Protoss players like me, I can be happy with that.
Absolutely. If Mini makes top 4, I think the top 4 is basically perfect at that point. But Sharp is a killer in Terran versus Protoss. He is really, really good at the matchup. I think it's his best. So I think that's going to be a really fantastic match. I mean, SoulKey versus JyJ delivered in every single way you could ever hope for. But we could still have a couple more that do that as well. This ASL really has shaped up into an amazing tournament.
Yeah, it's been a really, really fun season. And again, it's just so hard to call who's going to take it. Even JyJ losing to SoulKey, I mean, that's kind of an upset again. Just more and more crazy results. Who knows who's going to actually end up getting into our finals here. And again, effort in this ASL getting deeper and deeper. If you guys only watched ASL and didn't watch the old days of StarCraft, pre-StarCraft 2 especially, you might not realize Effort is one of the greatest Zergs of all time.
Yeah.
He didn't look that hot in some of these earlier seasons, but he's definitely back and in great form now.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we have those top 4 of Jaedong Flash, Bisu and Stork, but number 5 was Effort. So, you know, he's truly a legend. And like I said, you know, when I saw him playing earlier, I'm like, nah, that's it. Effort's got this. And honestly, I look at this lineup, who's left and everything. I definitely think Effort can win this ASL. It is definitely possible.
Sure. Sure, he totally could. And how long are we going to stay on this screen, Tastosis?
Dude,
what is
this
happening
is this
right
new
now?
thing we're going to do where we're just going to sit on
I
screens.
hope that they don't
It's
take
like,
this down.
How
I have
much
so
do you
much
want
more to say?
Yeah, how much do you want to see that? But yeah, that's going to be it for this match. It was fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting on the Patreon. We hope you enjoy this faster turnaround and the guarantee of no audio slip-ups. If there are any levels that you guys think are a little bit off, do let us know. But it's been great. Thank you so much. And please check out the Patreon, patreon.com/ASL English. Anything else from you, Tasteless?
Nope, that's it. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you next week for the second half of the round of 8. Bye-bye.